All right, guys, welcome to Onelife Podcast. My guest today is Jess. She's a peak performance coach. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
Friends of Tori, who I've had on here, who was amazing. It was a pleasure to have her. I'm very excited to talk to you. What is a peak performance coach?
Wow.
Straight to the point.
Very loaded question. I think really tapping humans into their highest version of themselves. I think we're living at such a small percentage of what our potential truly is.
What we're capable of doing, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's wild. It's wild. We're very distracted. We're overstimulated. We're not grounded. There's so many things that are preventing us from being like at that peak performance level. And those that are making like the biggest impact on this planet and doing the best things in business and in relationships and in life, they're living at a higher level. They're living at a different energetic state. They're tapping into something that we all have access to, but we obviously have a lot of, I kind of look at it like a Wi-Fi network. We're all these Wi-Fi networks and we've got all of these little things that are sitting on our network. And so it's slowing down our speeds. And we're like, well, why are we getting to where we want to go faster? And if you start plucking all those things off your Wi-Fi network, your speeds start to fly.
What are the things holding us back and distracting us?
Oh man, there's so many things. Well, first thing I would say is our devices.
That's the first thing came to my mind was our phones.
I mean, we also as a society, I would say, don't cognitively unload enough. So we go.
There's so many things on it.
I know. So like,
what does that mean?
So cognitively unload, it means we actually unload all of the stuff that's on our brains. So a lot of times we think that going to the gym and listening to a podcast at the same time is like the best thing ever because we're just like doing 2-in-1,
That's
right?
me.
I know. No, trust me. I get it. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I optimize every aspect of my life as much as possible?
Killing two birds with one stone, I like to
100%.
say.
It just took the actual cognitive unload out of the equation because you were still using your brain while you're exercising.
Gotcha.
Even though exercising is the perfect activity to actually unload, it wasn't unloading because you're still
counterproductive in a way.
Yeah.
So I look at it as ultra productive.
Trust me, I get it. I'm the same way. But so we have to do these many moments of silence, these many moments of taking deep breaths throughout the day, these many moments of like actually doing absolutely nothing.
When you say
challenging sometimes.
And when you say an unloading, we're distracting ourselves, we're masking things, we're not actually like silent dealing things up here because we're on our phone,
the
notifications.
Quick dopamine hits.
Yeah.
The quick dopamine.
And I like what you're getting at, like taking that quiet time to expand on that. I cut you off.
It's necessary. We don't really, and when I say this, I'm the worst person at doing this. Typically the things that are, we go and study and learn and we get, super curious about are things because we're going through the pain of it ourselves. So I went through so much pain of being like ADHD. Well, I don't identify as ADHD, but I've been told that that's something that I have had my whole entire life. And so going off and on medication when I was a kid and then, as an adult, really learning how to focus and how to like put my attention on something and not get distracted it's something that I've been curious and hungry to learn throughout my whole entire life because it's been a struggle, right? So I have gone and learned so many different aspects of tapping into flow state or, plucking those things off our Wi-Fi network so you can have that level of focus and intention where time and space almost becomes an illusion and you actually get to speed up productivity, creativity. Everything is so much more amplified because you're tapped into this deep now almost, if that makes sense. So you also, when you go through those higher states, you also have to come back and you have to unload because it takes a lot of brain power for us to go into. So that's why like when you watch athletes and they're running up and down the court and you see Steph and you see him in flow, he is tapped. You see him in that space where time and space are a complete illusion and he's just making it and making it and making it. And you also see when he's not tapped into flow too. Like you can see that. But everybody needs that time to cognitively unload. It's very
something
important.
comes to mind. When you hear about like someone studying at university and saying they're better off doing 2 hours of good study or 6 hours of not really doing anything.
Yes.
If that's the same type of thing you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. So actually when you're there, being present, being in the moment, giving 100%, but then also switching off, taking time for yourself.
Well, it's a cycle. And so if you, the best book to dive into is Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. His work is unbelievable when it comes to this research. And prior to his research, there was also like a Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I think is his name, and he's like the OG of creativity and tapping into flow. But when it comes to this flow cycle, there's actually a phase in the beginning when you sit down to put your focus and attention on something where it's a little bit of a struggle because you have to like ground yourself in that moment and start focusing on. And
absolutely.
And that little struggle is typically when we're like, oh, I'm going to get up and go grab some water, or I'm going to check my phone, or I'm going to do, you know what I mean? So you do anything to distract.
And we're always doing that now. Yeah. And what's the timing to get back into that? Isn't like 21 seconds or a minute or something to get distracted again?
Well, they say like if you're just trying to get into flow state, like you've never really thought about this with intention, but you're just trying to get into it. I would say if you get tapped out of it, then it could take up to 15 to 20 minutes to get back in. But when it comes to like the actual attention span that we have in the United States right now, like we check our phone every 11 minutes, and there's no ability to tap into flow when you are checking your phone every 11 minutes because you can't actually focus. It's really wild research, but if you actually tap into flow state just one day a week on Monday, you actually can take off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that's how much distraction we have in a week in America right now. So
you're getting more done on Monday than you would those 3 days.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's so wild.
That's kind of crazy.
It's also one of those, what's the other fun study? It's the 10,000 hour rule. That can actually get cut in half. Because when you're in those flow states, you're actually able to tap into higher levels of productivity and creativity to where you're 500% more effective, and you can like condense time frames so much more.
That's interesting. So peak performance, you're starting at the base of getting rid of those distractions and getting more focus so you can do more in a quicker period of time.
And be more creative. And
be more creative.
And that's the number one
that's interesting
trait
too.
that CEOs right now in America, when they're hiring, they're looking for that sense of creativity because you have to think differently than other people.
Think outside the box,
now.
right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So creativity is a big one. And I think that's something that we also get very capped as we get older, and we don't give ourselves the time and space to go play in those ways.
It's embedded out of us, right? It's embedded. It's drilled out of us as kids. Don't ask questions. Don't color outside the lines. Don't ask back. Why is this like? We get told not to really critically think and just nod our heads, do what we're told. And we need to do the opposite. And as you said, as we get older, it's even less and less that we do it, right?
It's intentional play. It's curiosity and playfulness.
Curiosity, yes.
Yeah. We can never lose that childlike wonder. We can't. When we lose that, we lose everything. It is the number one way to stay in the most high vibe space, grateful space of like manifestation, creation. It is the ultimate vibrational state.
Okay. Yeah. So do you do one-on-one? Do you do talks? Do you do speaking? What do you do exactly?
All of the above.
Okay. I thought you were going to say that. Yeah. How did you get started with that? Was it curiosity yourself and wanting to be better performance on yourself?
So it all started actually in network marketing when I was 21. So I got introduced to a company back then, and that introduced me to personal development. Okay. And that started.
I always say that, right? There's a lot of network marketers in Las Vegas. Read This 20th Century by Robert Kiyosaki. And I mean, if you want to go that route, that's one thing. But the fact to open up you to self-education, that is the most important thing.
I was wild. At 21 years old to be introduced to
I was 21 when Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Best thing ever happened to me.
Exactly. I became a sponge because I also really loved all things law of attraction because I had lived a lot of those things, but I didn't understand how to consciously do that until people started putting books in my hands, you know, in that industry. And I was like, wait, hold on. I've been doing this my whole entire life and I had no idea. So then I started to consciously do it a lot more in my business and to kind of teach it more kind of in a coded way. And I did 8 years in network marketing with a company. I was able to scale from 0 to $1 million a month in sales and 10,000 people in my downline at like 23. So that gave me a really fun skill set that ended up translating into working with other different companies in that industry, and then other industries that also has, personal development as the foundation of their industries, and ran some programs for a while, and then ended up into peak performance coaching for a trading platform right now.
Gotcha. That's you just touched on a million.
I know. I kind of went for it.
No. I like
Context.
it. I always preach self-education. How important is it and why?
It changed my life.
Why should other people be doing it?
It just opens up a whole new world.
It opens up a whole new world, right? It gives you permission. There's a different way. Were your parents entrepreneurs? Were your parents business?
My dad was. My mom has run a hospital, had a clinical operations for like 40 years or 35, I think. And watching her, she has got this intense level of focus, like, and just drive and just go. And I think that I got a lot of that obviously from her, but I would say what I never wanted was the lifestyle she had. And my dad was an entrepreneur, and he was the one that braided my hair before school and, picked me up if I was sick. And, it was just the more present. Yeah. And I was able to kind of identify that at a young age. I remember actually calling my dad. I was in the car. I was working at a record label doing PR part-time right out of college. And one of my bosses told me I had too many carbs on my plate at lunch. I swear. I was living in LA.
Really?
And I like almost just like looked at him and I was like, I'm not available for this. I remember getting in my car, calling my dad and saying, I will never work for anybody ever again in my life. And I was like, I'm just going to live this life. And it's so wild because that's been basically my life for the last 13 years. And then I accepted an offer out in Tampa for a position that's probably it's literally what I've been asking for, in the sense of them really seeing exactly what I love to do the most and putting me in that position and also stretching me to be even greater. And that also was something I was calling into, because sometimes working for yourself, you don't get that additional layer of stretch. And so it's really fun because this is the first time in 13 years I'm actually going to kind of change it up a little.
That's interesting. Do you feel like they say the average American reads less than one book a year, and then the average CEO reads 60 books a year? And it's like I always talk about that. Like, do you want to be here or you want to be here? And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. But if you don't want to be the average person, what steps are you taking to do what you do? And that goes in the self-education, the reading, the courses, the podcasts.
I'm telling you, every single time. I don't watch television, and that's on any, everybody can do whatever they're inspired to do. I personally, there's something about it that just, I can't sit in front of it and watch it. I can listen to audiobooks and I can listen to music all day long. But that's like my dead air, is audiobooks or music or YouTube videos. But I would say audiobooks, or podcasts too. But I definitely, it changes your entire frame of reference when you wake up in the morning and you're pouring in this clean water. You're setting your frame for the day to where you can walk out of your house and you've already set the tone of how you're viewing things. And, mindset gets thrown around a lot, but I would say if you have this right frame of reference that you're living your life through, that allows for you to really see from an elevated space, then, and what better to do that than audiobooks and podcasts and learning from people that have what you want, allowing yourself to put yourself in that frame. People from heavy, I love that. Yes, you have to. So if there's something that it's a blueprint, right? It is. Like I love, the reason I love Rob Dyrdek's podcast so much is because Rob has a specific way that he optimizes his life that I'm attracted to. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. You have what I want. I'm going to learn from you. Yeah, you're going to listen to that person. Yes. Just like books. 100%. Just like, even if you don't like the person, but you like their lifestyle, you can still get value from it. Always. Yeah. 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 No, I'm a huge believer of that. It's so refreshing to have these conversations. I know. It's so nice. So it's so important. Remember what Zig Ziglar said? If you get up and read the newspaper, it's all negative. Even Oprah. I started watching the news because of Oprah. He's like if you watch something, if you get up in the morning, have to watch something or read something negative, it sets your day up to be negative. And you're saying the complete opposite. Audiobook, podcast, something positive, it sets your day up to be the direction you want it to be. Well, it's all momentum, right? So when you open up your eyes in the morning, you've got about 17 seconds. And in that 17 seconds, and that's at any moment in time, you can have these 17 seconds, but your brain is like a Pinterest algorithm. So if you feed it thoughts and you continue to feed it more thoughts and you continue to feed it more thoughts, right around the 17-second mark, it will literally start feeding you more like-minded things.
Kind of like the algorithm on TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you know that, then it's intentionally building momentum in the right direction, right? So if your train is going 100 miles an hour in one direction, it's very challenging to really like get affected by little things that's hitting you. So if you've built this direction and you're going, and I have this mental picture in my head. I made this chart. Top of it's green, middle of it's yellow, and the bottom of it's red. And it kind of goes like this.
Yeah.
And the top, it's all high vibe emotions. That's green. Green means go. Middle is all the kind of middle vibe emotions where you're kind of teeter-tottering. And then the bottom is red, and it's fear, doubt, and worry. And, you know, the lower vibe emotions. And when you're down there, you really can't see out. You don't really have access to possibility. You don't really even have access to logic.
Yeah.
So you're in this space where you're swimming in emotion. And if you are in yellow, you're a little bit teeter-tottering, like something good happens, you're probably happy. Something bad happens, it's very reactive versus proactive. Then you get into this green zone place, and you really you see the possibility in everything at all times. So it's challenging to really go through a lot of contrast because you're seeing everything. Like if your bag doesn't come in from the airport, you're not sitting there saying, oh, my bag didn't come in from the airport. You're saying, oh, I wonder who I'm supposed to meet because my bag didn't come in. So you're in this space of possibility up here, right? So if you're building your intention every single morning is to build your momentum in the right direction, in the green, then it's not that red is a bad place, because how do you know light without dark? How do you know happiness without sadness? How do you know what you want in the next relationship if you didn't know what you didn't want from this past one? It's all there to serve. I'm just saying, if you know that you have a return to sender on your energy at all times, and you want to have people, situations, circumstances that are like-minded, and you want to have, high vibe thoughts, you want to have these different things, then you need to open up your eyes in the morning and build your intention in the right way and build your momentum in the right direction so that you can really get into that green zone space. So when your train's going 100 miles an hour that way, it doesn't matter what's hitting you in life. It's going to bounce off. Now, if you build it in the other direction and you wake up and
which most people are doing,
when
right?
It rains, it pours. That saying was created from somebody in the red zone, 1,000%. That also can happen in the green. It can rain and pour in the green. And that's what's so cool. So
that's what's happening to me right now.
Yeah.
In the green. Because this podcast, because other things I'm doing.
Yeah.
Just aligning more and more of the right people, and it's just speeding up more and more.
Doesn't it feel like a snowball? Where it's just
kind of crazy.
Things are just magnetized to you.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't believe I met so-and-so, or this happened, this opportunity happened. And it didn't happen overnight.
Nope.
And there's a simple saying that I read forever ago. It's like, you stick your hand in the honey pot, eventually something's going to stick. You consume enough good content, you listen to enough things, eventually it sticks. And it may be just one small little increment, but you get the momentum, it starts to compound after time. And then you get 100 miles an hour in the green zone. Well, I love how you put that, by the way.
Yeah, it's a fun mental picture. I think it's also something that I want to make sure that I clarify. Like, we can go through, like, I could wake up and I could get in the green, and by lunch I can be back in the red. Like, we can go through so many, it's a moment by moment practice. And when we get into this space of creating an intention around our energetic state, then we start to realize, like, it's almost like you vibe check yourself throughout the day and you see where you're at. And if there's intent to be in green, then you do the things necessary to get in that space more. If we practice being in a certain energetic state for long enough, though, that will become our norm, and it will almost feel uncomfortable to go elsewhere. So if you've been in a funk for a little while, it almost feels weird getting back into like a space of expansive possibility, because you're just like waiting for the ball to drop almost. So I want to make sure that I clarify that it's a moment by moment practice, and it's a moment by moment intention. And it's just really cool when you start to play in that space. I tell everybody, don't take my word for it. Just go do it and see the return to sender and see the things that start to happen in that green space. Because you're like, wait, how did that just unfold? How did I end up, and it's almost like you start looking at things that you perceive as negative, not negative any longer. So like the whole bag situation, if my bag didn't come in, or if I hit every red light on the way to somewhere I'm going and I'm late, maybe I'm like, ooh, I wonder why I'm hitting every red light. Maybe this is all divine in some way. Like, you just start thinking about things in a more expansive way.
Yeah, expansive.
Picture, like, we have a radar screen, right? And we're looking at the radar screen. This is all we can see of our realities on this radar screen. But the amount of things that are happening outside of this radar screen that we can't see, it's almost like, well, if I know that, then I can't just take this for what it is. I have to say, I wonder what's happening here that I can't see, right?
That's interesting.
And there's all this other possibility and all these other timelines and all these other things that can line up. And I think the more tapped into that state where you are the most in the now and in that presence and in that positive expectancy but complete detachment of how it's going to unfold, then you start to really get curious and you get excited and you stay in this space where you can see things that you wouldn't necessarily see because you're in the
light and the darkness, right? Have you Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines, you know how that started? You know the story? You've read the book?
I don't.
His flight got cancelled, and rather than, hey, this is the worst thing that happened to me, blah blah blah, he charters a flight. Like, he literally rents out a flight, sells all the tickets to the passengers who got the flight cancelled on, and he got to his date where he's trying to go. The next day rings up Boeing and starts his airline. And that's 20, 30 years ago now.
So good.
So it's one of those things, like, he could be like, you're talking about your bag getting lost or his flight getting cancelled.
1,000%.
But he started a $1 billion company from it.
Every single
How nuts is that, right?
contrasting
And that's
thing.
just the way to look at that situation.
Yep.
99.9% of people in that flight are whinging, texting, tweeting about it, and he starts his own airline company from it.
And that's what personal development will do. It will open up your mind to seeing possibility in everything.
I always say it doesn't make you smarter. It makes you more aware.
I was going to say self-aware.
Yeah, self-aware. Yeah, I don't like to say it's like smarter, but you start to see more opportunities. You start 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Rather than complaining, listen to someone's complaint. Just little things like that, right?
Oh, it's
one little piece at a time.
There's nothing that and it's a never-ending journey of becoming even more and more aware, because there's so many. Like, my favorite question to ask people that I can actually trust to answer this question is, what do you see that I don't see that I need to see? And I don't ask that question to everybody because I don't really want to know what they see, because I don't necessarily trust what the bias that might be coming. But if I ask somebody, like a mentor of mine, like, what do you see in my world right now that I don't see that I need to see? Because if we're always constantly growing, if we're always constantly becoming more aware, if we're always constantly just keeping that level of curiosity and wonder, and that knowing that we're never going to stop evolving, we're never going to stop growing, we're never going to stop having little deaths, mini deaths and rebirths of who we are. We're never going to stop that. So we're never going to really arrive anywhere. And if we are, we're going to die very soon, because we're growing or we're dying. There's no in between. So we have to constantly have that evolution. And I don't know, there's something about that. Like you said, it's not really smarter. I don't know. It's just the awareness. It truly is.
And the permission that comes with it too.
Yeah.
And learning from other people's experience and realizing that they're no different to you and I.
Dude, we're all human.
And they weren't born that way, or they've been through more mishaps than you and I could ever imagine, or there's so many things. In this podcast alone, like the amount of times people sat there who are being successful, have been through things I could never imagine, but they're sitting there and they're successful and they got up and they made it through it. It just gives you true perspective.
It's interesting you say that, because I feel like the hardest of times, the most contrasting of times, the most red zone of times, those build us. They train us.
Best things that happen to you.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to see that.
Oh, and the moment you're just like, make this end.
Well, it's coming to
Why?
an end, yeah. But then when you look back, you're like, I am so relentless.
Yeah.
I'm so strong from this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't take any of them back. It makes you who you are.
So the coaching, what else? So you're going to the core, but what else do you do with the coaching exactly? Once you start identifying these things, allowing things to become like better flow state, what else do you work on?
Well, health is a big one.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I mean, man, where do I start? Food, exercise, Sheesh. I don't even know which direction to start, but it's health.
Why is health important?
I mean, if our physical body isn't in its optimal space, it's very challenging to.
It affects everything else, right? It affects
everything else.
Yeah, I feel like people don't get that. I feel like we take it for granted. I feel like it's a right to like, oh, just because I can, I should. Like, you mind if I ask how old are you?
30 or 34.
Yeah, I mean, and how amazing do you look for 34, right? I'm 43. It's like health is everything. Your health is your wealth. Your health outweighs everything. And if you haven't got your health, your mind doesn't think the same. You're cloudy, you're tired, you're niggly, you're achy, you're unhappy. Everything else comes from that, doesn't it?
Everything.
Yeah. So as far as the health, what do you do? Do you get people fasting, exercising? What do you?
I think everything is a customized approach, to be honest. And I think coaching is really an opportunity to like, you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And so I think coaching is just an opportunity. I'm not emotionally tied to what you've got going on. You're not emotionally tied to what I have going on. So a lot of times if you have a really good coach, it's just somebody that can ask good questions to get you to already come to the conclusion that you already know. But when you arrive there, you've got love and support, and it just people that have your back in that process. So I think some of the things that I really love to kind of help people through are the same things that I've personally had to go through and then had to figure out that. And I'm just a couple steps ahead, but by no means an expert. And every single person's biology is different. Every single person, needs to really try different aspects of things for themselves before there is no 5-step system. And I'm not a fan of people that have the, like, this is what you have to do. No. Because every single one of us is different. Every single one of us. It's so challenging.
What's the saying? We talk about it a lot. Like there's a million different ways, but you need to prioritize.
Yes. And
then figure it out for yourself.
Yes. And play with it. And it's a lifestyle. And it's something that if you really, really do dive into it, the benefits of it long term, man. I'm just now getting to the point where I'm thinking, okay, this food that I'm putting in my mouth right now, what is this going to do to my body that will affect it 10 years from now? And that's something that's very new for me, because
food is fuel.
It is.
Full stop.
You got premium, you got basic.
Full stop. That's the only reason we eat, is to function.
And if you go to a grocery store, food is fun. It's not just fuel.
Yeah.
And that's what's dangerous about it, is I enjoy anything. Like, my filter of life is, how can I make this even more fun? I enjoy play. I enjoy, like, that childlike curiosity we were talking about earlier is my favorite thing. So food was always something that was also tied to love. So, like, my mom loved to get fun snacks, and so that's tied to things that it's an experience. It's a feeling of love. So there's more to food that I had to overcome when it came to not anything really major, but just like avoiding the outer, rim of the grocery store, or like all the snack aisles, you know what I mean?
Like, literally the middle of the supermarket.
Stay in the grocery, the stuff from the earth, Jess.
Stay on the outside.
Stay in the earth part, not in the snack part. So it's still like a challenge, I would say. But my mom sends a box every holiday with like an entire thing of candy and snacks. And I'm just like, Mom. And this is the same. So we have very different views on health and all of those things. I've been trying to cut out all things seed oils, all things like anything that's not, long-term going to be beneficial, but it's hard. I'm a chocolate peanut butter freak.
I don't get the chocolate peanut butter thing. Australia, we don't do it.
I don't. Every American, so those I did.
But I mean, every American, the chocolate and peanut butter, they love it. I don't get it. I love chocolate. I love peanut butter, but I never put the two together. It doesn't make sense.
I wish it didn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me.
I truly do. I truly wish it did not make sense.
But it's like now being in my 40s, and I look back and I look at people around me or my own age or people I went to school with, I'm so glad I made those good decisions on a consistent basis over the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other places I could be. I could be dead from a heart attack. Could have type 2 diabetes. I could have health problems now for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But it's prioritizing your health and making it important enough to make good decisions on a consistent basis, but still have your fun. You still got to balance it. That's the tricky bit. And I'm a very big believer, like fitness, family, finance, fun. Trying to balance all those.
Oh, I love that.
That's kind of like my thing. And I got friends that might be like fitness, family, finance, fun, and then religion or something, or spiritual, or whatever it is. But I think
really like that.
Yes, I think it's very important to have your own balance. And then they constantly slide, right? Hey, finance is going well, but my health's suffering. Now my health's going good and I'm not seeing enough time with my family. It's working that out for yourself. But what is important is keeping your health.
Yeah. No, it's so important. I think the other part of cognitively unloading is sleep and recovery and making sure that we're actually getting the right time to it's like our body
sleep?
Battery. Oh man, this is a new priority. So
you got Aura?
I have the Whoop actually.
Oh yeah.
I just took it off.
I think it's very important to measure. Yeah.
You have to. So I would say in the past priority, it was not sleep. It was like we move off pain or pleasure, right? So for whatever reason at night, I get so many ideas, like all the ideas.
Your brain starts
everything just starts kicking. And I'm like, the pleasure of staying awake would always be better than the pain of like the next day, not, I would be like, I'll just do 2 coffees instead. Cause it was so much fun in that moment.
Yeah.
So I've actually recently been kind of reframing this for myself where it's okay, what's my next day look like? And is this next day going to be energy expensive? And if it's going to be energy expensive, then I think to myself, okay, Jess, you need to plug in your body battery. So same as my phone. If I'm going to be on my phone all day,
cool sayings.
Everything's in mental pictures. So when I like think about, I'm going to be on my phone all day on calls tomorrow, I have to charge my phone. Well, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be going nonstop all day with humans all day tomorrow. Jess, you need to plug in your body battery and then wake up tomorrow and actually be able to give that energy to people. And I'd never looked at it like that. I always looked at it in more of a way of that temporary pleasure was trumping that pain.
And I'll coffee my way through it.
And since I've changed this frame, and it's not been for that long, I actually just finished a program that I was in, and they really prioritized rest and recovery and made me start tracking it more. And I started to do it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much energy throughout the day. Like, this is crazy. Like
natural energy, right?
I have so much clarity. And I was like, I have been doing this and operating in such a low space and still getting, so much accomplished. And I'm like, what if I actually charged my body? What would happen?
And I eat perfect and I sleep perfect. Oh, you do cold therapy?
I know, but
start doing that.
I know. This is
do an ice bath every morning. That'll change your life.
This is
you
true.
Want more energy? Oh my God, I cannot stress it enough.
That's my next play. It really is my next play. I do 100 have you ever heard of Hotworks?
Mm-hmm.
So I do Hotworks like 5 days a week, and that's like 130-degree sauna workout. And that's my favorite thing ever because we don't really only truly detox by sweating. So you go in there and you're on a spin bike and you're just like, I could wring my clothes out when I walk out of there. It is amazing. And I need to have like a cold plunge right after I leave there. Yeah. And I don't have one and I need one, but maybe in Tampa.
Cold shower.
I'll say yes, exactly.
Yeah, I cannot stress the cold enough.
Yeah.
I love my coffee. I have my coffee in my morning, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
Do not need it.
Interesting.
5-minute cold plunge, jumped in a cold shower, and I'm just...
And you do this, so you walk right out of bed and you go right
straight into the cold.
And so how much time is like seconds?
From bed to there?
Yeah.
Probably enough to go to the bathroom, have a glass of water.
Wow.
And I've been doing cold showers for 6 years, but the plunges for nearly 2 months. And when I first started the plunges, at first I was excited. And then I started having nightmares about it. I was like, why am I doing this? And it was affecting my sleep. And now I've been doing it so long that it literally walk out, go to the bathroom, have some water, straight in the shower, done. And I don't even think about it. So it's training. It's just like any habit. You've got a lot of good habits. It's just training another habit.
That's basically me in the morning to go work out. I don't even
which is perfect, right? But you can do the cold plunge too, working out.
That is insane. I can't even imagine waking up first thing
But that's why it's important to do.
I know.
Because the last thing I want to do is get out of a warm bed where you're comfortable and jump in the cold for absolutely no reason.
Well, I can't imagine how fast it shocks the body into being present. Like you
Instantly.
are there and you are here.
So I tried an experiment today where I've talked about it before on the podcast and we're friends. And what I've said, it's when you're in the cold, you're in the moment.
Yeah.
You cannot think about relationships issues. You cannot think about stress and work. You can't think about anything besides being in the cold. So today when I was in the cold, I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable. I'm settled. I'm going to try to think about something. I still couldn't do it. Because even though I'm comfortable, I'm able to even meditate in there. I still couldn't think about anything besides being in the cold. So if you ever want quiet time, you ever want time where you can just switch off from everything, it's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, if you just had a fight with your boyfriend and you're all upset, you can't think about that. All you think about is this damn cold water.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And when can you tell me were you ever like that?
The only thing that I can think of, the only thing that popped in my brain just now was boxing. When I'm boxing, like
when you're getting your butt kicked on pads or something, right?
Yeah, like there, you can't be anything but present. That's the only other time that I can experience like that deep of intense of focus and attention, or you're gonna get hit. Yeah.
And it's funny, I do Muay Thai twice a week, like private lessons. And now when I'm getting my butt kicked on the pads, I'm able to go into this deeper sense of myself into the cold while I'm doing pad work, and I'm able to push harder. I'm able to lean into things which are uncomfortable.
That's how you tap into flow. The easiest way is being able to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's
literally my favorite saying. Yeah. I say that all the time.
Well, that's
what entrepreneurship is.
Yes. And then this is the beautiful space of unknown. So when we're going from the shallow into the deep end and our toes start to be able to not touch, that's when we want to revert back. That's when we're on the edge. That's when as a human, we're like, no.
I'm okay.
Yeah. And if you push past that and you go to that space where, I mean, that space is where we like, typically as humans, we're like, okay, now we're going to try to tread water. But if you just realize that you can float and you can tap into something so much greater, and whether that's falling back into something that, my mental picture is like God's arms, whether that's just trust and belief and knowing whatever that looks like to you, that faith and trust in that unknown and that ability to be comfortable in that uncomfortable space is the only way for us to grow and evolve to the greatest, like the next iteration, the next version.
I heard this the other day. It was like 2 days ago. And it was a army guy trying to get like recruited as special forces or something. He's like, go swim the length of that pool. So he jumped in the pool and he walked along the bottom. And he got out and he's like, why didn't you swim? He's like, I don't know how. He's like, I can teach you how to swim. But what I can't teach you is that mindset. It's pretty powerful, right? He didn't make excuses, didn't try to find a way around it. He just did it. You can, and I always say that integrity, punctuality, treating people the way you want to be treated, that can't be taught.
Yeah.
Skills can be taught.
Yeah.
But just being somewhere on time, being a good person, being a person of integrity, that's a whole different story, right?
Yeah, it is.
I can see like, yeah.
It is. No, it really is. The integrity piece, I feel like I was always somebody that, so I went to this it was a course called Landmark Education. Had you ever heard of that?
No.
I did that when I was 21 years old. That was like my first intro to like personal.
It's so cool that you started that young.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was so cool. That is why I'm so grateful for network marketing, because it really did. If I hadn't had that at that young of an age, I don't know.
Yeah, you're working at Starbucks type of thing, right?
I would never have had that type of. People were pouring into me at such a young age, and that I was put in a position of, you have to be a leader. What does that mean? Okay, I have to figure out what that looks like, and then started reading all these leadership books, and I started understanding how to lead
given
people.
The best ones to read, right?
Yes, and then I had people that were grabbing me, and I have again a mental picture of like people were pulling me up the rope to see a different view, to see a different perspective, and then it was my job to turn around and like pull people up the rope and give them a new perspective. And then they'd pull me back and I'd be like, wow, it's so cool up here, but there's higher, like you can see more, you can see like, and it just, but all of that started with that program Landmark. And it was so interesting because that was a program I got invited to go to. There was like a little like intro thing that you could go to. And I brought friends to it. And I'd been invited over and over and over again with this guy that just saw the light in me and was like, you got to go to this thing. Just called me over and over. And I was like, no, whatever. I just kind of blew it off. Then I finally went one day and I brought friends with me. And all 3 friends signed up and I didn't. And I filled I filled out the paperwork and I didn't submit it. And I just didn't know if I really wanted to. And I was like, So went to all 3 of their graduations. At every single one of them, I was inspired but didn't commit. And it was the 3rd one that somebody pulled me aside and they were like, are you going to stop listening to how you feel and like actually commit and have integrity with what you say you're going to do? I've seen you at 3 of these things and you've been inspired and excited and you filled out the paperwork, but you haven't committed. And it was very interesting when I finally actually did it. And then I realized every other area of my life, I couldn't even commit to going to lunch because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel by that time. Like now it's like, I won't make the commitment unless I know I can do it, because once I say I'm going to do it, I have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like this, I wasn't always like that. But that all started from just basically having people see things in me before I could see them in myself at such a young age and
but
commit
then it's
to
keeping
me.
promises to yourself. And why do you think most people procrastinate and do what you do? I mean, I used to do it too. I don't do it at all anymore. Like, why are we scared? Are we scared? Is it like worried about people's opinions? Is it?
Give me a scenario, because I think there's a lot of different directions that this could go.
I mean, people just don't jump in, I guess. They touch their feet to the water, but they never kind of.
I do think it comes back to self-trust. Yeah.
Self-trust.
What
is self-trust?
If we haven't gone there before, it feels like uncharted territory.
Why are we scared of uncharted? We're creatures of comfort, you think?
Yeah, we are. And our whole body and our physiology is programmed for that. Like when we go to touch the hot stove, we pull back. When we go to the edge, we pull back. Like you kind of have to sign up for high levels of discomfort when you are moving into a new space like that.
Any type of growth, right?
Yeah, I've put myself through, like I moved to LA when I was 19, after 6 years there, I moved to Miami, sold everything I owned, moved to Miami for 4 years, sold everything I owned, moved to Hawaii for 3.5 years, moved everything a year ago, or sold everything, moved to Vegas a year ago. And in between that, months in Colombia, months in Australia, months in Bali, like a bunch of different times. All of those experiences, those were priceless experiences that built self-trust, that I can put myself in any environment and feel safe and secure. And I can trust myself. I can trust my instincts. All of those things. When I'm with people that haven't necessarily done that, it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just sometimes there's a level of like unknown and fear associated with getting on a plane and just going like that.
Knowing you're going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
I live in a different country. I totally get it. And I got so much growth moving to a different country by myself.
Yes.
Because I had nobody to count on, no friends, no family.
Now you can take that trust in yourself and you can put that into business and
unstoppable, right?
And now you're like, oh, that translates. So there's a lot of that, if you really look at somebody and where they're at, a lot of it's just because they haven't necessarily experienced that level of discomfort that allowed them to build that trust in themselves to go into those different arenas and know that they're going to be okay.
One of my favorite sayings is seek discomfort. Constantly seek discomfort.
Amen.
Constantly look for things that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the cold. If I don't find anything, guess what? The cold did it today.
That's the hardest thing. I think that's probably the...
And what it seems like, I fast, I do this, exercise, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it seems like the cold is the pinnacle. Maybe public speaking would be up there, but you can't just go public speak every day. Yeah. But I feel like the cold is the pinnacle of what most people are uncomfortable with. That's why I think it's so important.
I would agree with that, and I need to get on that. Fasting is something that I really appreciate, but I also think that that's very specific to different bodies as well, because I've actually knocked my hormones out of whack by fasting too much, as far as my windows and leading into certain times of the month. And so that's actually really interesting for women that they have to really be careful with. And
but at least you tried it.
No, I still do. I really love fasting.
A lot of people are like, I could never stop myself. I'm like, it's what we did for thousands and hundreds of thousands
I really
of years.
enjoy it every Sunday. It gives me a reset. It gives me clarity. It gives
You
me
take Sunday off from eating?
Yeah, until later in the day. So
Okay.
I'll go from Saturday night to Sunday night. And
Perfect. Yeah. Like a 24-hour fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's so much benefit comes from that.
But it also keeps me clear. I'll wake up and I'll go to church and I'll spend the day in nature and I just take that. We make like 235 decisions a day about what we're going to eat. And if you
Really?
take that cognitive unload off too and just
Do we really?
automate, yeah, it's crazy. So if you actually just automate what you're going to eat for the first 2 meals and when you're going to eat them, you take so much off of your brain when it comes to thinking about what you're going to eat and when
That's
you're going to eat
interesting.
it. Isn't that wild?
I eat once a day. I used to eat 6 to 12 meals a day.
Interesting.
Now I eat once. And it's so simple.
I bet.
I get up, I walk out the door, and I eat when I want to eat. And it's the most freeing thing. I always say that. My life was dictated around my next meal. Now I'm free. Now I eat when I want. And it's amazing.
That's so cool.
And my food hasn't been as good lately, but when it's good, you stay very lean, very easy.
Yeah.
It's like this cheat code.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier. You like knowing something, telling someone something, and doing it yourself. Do you struggle with that a little bit? So like self-education, exercise, whatever it is, like, you know what everyone should be doing. You're telling other people to do it, but are you always on your A game, or are you human too?
Oh, human too.
Where do you struggle?
My non-negotiables are working out. It just keeps me in my best energetic state.
Yeah, so that's something you do consistently
every time. Like,
yeah,
it's almost challenging to have rest days for me.
Gotcha.
Like, yeah. So
what do you do?
I usually do hot works, which is more of like my detoxing, fasted cardio. I'll at least do an hour and 15 in there in the morning, and then I kind of play in CrossFit still, but I have to be really careful because of an injury. So I usually do CrossFit on Saturday mornings, and then throughout the week I'll lift like 3 or 4 times in the afternoon.
Okay.
Now I gotta probably hone that in a little bit when it comes to time when I relocate, but that's kind of my social interaction and my community is all based in my workouts.
Gotcha.
So I get to see certain people and experience different environments, and that gets me out of the house when I'm working from home.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what else? What do you struggle with?
Oh, meditation. Yeah. Meditation is the hardest one for me. It's so hard for me to slow my mind. And I go through phases where I'm so on point. And then I go through phases where I have to like fight my body to sit still.
My journaling, my meditation has been off the last couple of days.
But when I'm on, it's so good and I'm so clear and everything's
and
just
grounded,
so,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the overwhelm is so real when you take it that high speed and you can't slow it down. It's crazy. But at the same time, like, you know, I can't beat myself up about it. And I do feel like I get into this, like, almost meditation isn't only just, you know, stopping moving and going like this, you know what I mean? So meditation for me is on a Sunday afternoon, going out in nature, Red Rocks, and just like wandering without any sense of time and space, and just enjoying myself in the present moment of nature.
Being present, right?
So so I would say I've found different forms of it during different times in my life. I started every morning on a mountain when I was living in Hawaii, and there was no more pure meditation than that. Yeah. And I was able to tap into spaces where I would come down that mountain and I would have so many ideas, and I would have to take my phone out and just like start writing because I'd have so much come. So I would say it's taken different forms at different times, but me slowing my butt down and sitting down in a quiet space for long periods of time is not happening right now. And it's a struggle. Like, I have like 3 trips, relocation to a new state, a new industry I'm learning from scratch so I can support them in the best way. And, you know, all in the next 2 weeks. And I'm not a logistical person at all. So like just having to coordinate movers and flights and 3 different trips and all these different things, and then stay on point with working out and eating clean and do it. I'm being tested, my friend. Tested.
I surfed when I was a teenager, and I always think about surfing even today. Yeah. And just being with nature and just being grounded, and I miss it so much. I think about it all the time. And I think that goes back to just being in nature and just being present. And I didn't have a phone, and I wasn't distracted, and I don't know. It's one of some of my happiest memories, to be honest. Yeah. And it's something I want to be able to recreate that somehow.
You think you'll go back somewhere with the ocean?
I don't know. You mentioned Hawaii. I'm like jealous.
Dude,
I'd love to live in Hawaii for a while.
It was epic. I'm going next week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't been yet, but I really want to go.
You have to. It's one of the most magical places. There's something energetically about that spot, but you're also very insulated. So I was there during some of the wild, couple years that we had in the States with COVID, and then
really?
everything that was happening after that.
It was pretty bad though, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty bad over there, wasn't it? As far as being isolated. And
I actually really enjoyed it because I was still able to access, while everybody was kind of cooped up, we still had access to like outdoor areas of living. Like I had a huge back patio lanai area. So we still got to sit outside versus like, my best girlfriend in New York who couldn't even walk outside. So I got a ticket going on a hike, trying to sneak out. But like there's things that you can still escape and do versus so that
New York,
I don't know. So there's definitely some benefit, I thought, during that time. It was very insulated in the sense of anything that was going on with, rioting, and there was so many things that happened back to back to back in the States. Nobody did stuff like that. Everybody's Ohana in Hawaii. They're just chilling. They're enjoying their life. Yeah, nobody's. You throw something in Auntie's window and you try to vandalize anything, and you're gonna have a bunch of Hawaiians coming after you. So everybody you just don't do that.
I like it.
Yeah.
You were systems. You did a lot of system stuff. How'd you learn to do that? Because that's a unique skill in itself. Like building systems for businesses.
I don't really know how it all started, except I became an expert in humans. And what
does that mean?
So I learned so much about working with so many different types of people for, thousands and thousands of people. I think the biggest thing that I learned when I started public speaking was I was talking from, some of these audiences, I kind of could see who I was talking to, but some of them I couldn't see who I was talking to. And they would be from, international backgrounds with different cultures, different religions, different, life experiences. And we all have these different lenses that we're seeing through. And when I'm standing up there, trying to get something across from one to many with all of these different barriers of entry from all of these different filters of life that I'm trying to like get through so that something will land and speak into their listening, I had to learn how to really understand all of these different perceptions of how they could think, which essentially gave me like a psychology degree without having to go to school for it, but just through experience. And I don't have a clue. There's so much I don't know as well. But in that time, I was able to really understand, I guess, all these different vantage points that you can kind of come from. And in that, you start seeing holes in culture. You can walk in, you can see if somebody's playing in their light. If you walk in and you can see what the disconnects are with, why people aren't thriving in whatever those roles are, or what systems would tap people back into a space of curiosity and playfulness and excitement to learn and grow in that role, or what are those disconnects? And so I think going into different organizations, and one, because I did a lot of things right and then a lot of things wrong too, and learned from those different things and got to see how I could, get people. You're basically running a volunteer army in network marketing. So you have to learn how to inspire people to do things before they're even getting paid to do them. And they have to get out of their comfort zone to do them. So that's huge. Then you're standing on a stage and you're talking to a bunch of different people from different backgrounds and walks of life. And you're like, how do I get them to have this piece of information land so they actually go take action on it, or they're inspired to? And you just start to learn people in that. And I think that gave me the experience to create systems around getting humans to get out of their own way. Also, me just being a curious human trying to understand myself to get out of my own way. Like all of those books and, audios and podcasts and all of that stuff, I was hungry for the information to use personally and then to see if it worked and then share that information and see if it could land based off of where they were at in whatever that, situation was, whether it's walking into a culture and seeing how we can inject more energy into it or tap people back more into their light because maybe they're doing things that they're not inspired to do. And, it doesn't take very much to go in and see what lights somebody up like a Christmas tree and get them to do more of that. And then if everybody's in their roles, if everybody's doing the things they love to do, then you've got an organization that's crushing. So, and that I think you can create systems around when you understand people in that way.
Okay. What, you seem like you're a good communicator. What do you think makes a good communicator?
I think for me, it's been so much personal development and so much experience of just communicating. I wouldn't say I'm the best communicator. There's so much I'm still learning. It's crazy. I feel like every book that I read, or every audio I listen to, okay, so the perfect picture that just popped in my head. We're our own worst critic, right?
100%.
And so you probably look at past podcasts that you did from the very beginning and you're just like, oh, I want to archive this. I don't even want people to see this,
I literally
right?
did it the other day.
Yes. So that evolution is constantly happening. And you're like,
my photography is perfect example.
Oh man, it's crazy.
My first video is like,
and we have these next iterations of ourselves.
It's like leveling up, and you don't want to go back to that level. That never existed. I've always been here.
You kind of have to suck before you don't suck. It's kind of going to be hard until it's not hard, and then it's going to be a new hard, right?
Yeah.
So I think that communication is the same way, and I would not say that I am. And I think that there's certain situations that I'm a better communicator than others, and there's things that I've built confidence in myself around, and then things that I'm still wobbly in. Like right now, I'm going into a whole new space of basically working with traders, like people that are trading high volumes of money every day. And I don't know what that experience is like, but I'm being brought in to help emotionally regulate them and to keep them in the right state of mind and make sure that they're in the green when they're making decisions and not in the red, trying to make up for things. And they're emotionally not in that space where that's a decision that should be made from there. It's like, you can't get there from here. You don't want to have this serious conversation with your spouse when you're both in the red. Like you can't see out. That's not the space of possibility there. So, but I don't know what a trader's emotional state's going to look like. Like I've never traded a day in my life. You know what I mean? So I'm walking into this brand new world where I can probably speak into the listening of people that are in the personal development space all day long. But in this space, I have to learn a whole new language. I have to understand what they're experiencing. I have to know how I can translate the tools that I have to give them in that way that they're going to receive them based off of what they're going through. And that's going to take me time to learn. And I'm a little bit wobbly in that, but I do know humans. And so if I can get back to just that core of who we are as humans, that I can still speak into the listening of giving them tools. I just can't necessarily apply it directly back to an example until I've learned that whole entire space. Gotcha. So I think, but it's like, you kind of suck until you don't. Like you got to just go dive in.
It's so simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't.
And then you're still going to look back and you're going to be like, oh, that picture, I could have done so much better because I'm now here. So it's my constant battle.
It's like putting the reps in there. I always say that. You know Mr. Beast from YouTube?
Say that again?
Mr. Beast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he goes, your first 100 videos are going to suck.
Yeah.
He goes, just get them out.
Yeah.
Just get them done.
Yes.
Put the reps in.
Yes.
Time under the bar.
The mental picture I was telling you, it was the albums, the like rappers. Like I was listening to an interview with a bunch of rappers and they were talking about how that they don't, once they've put out an album, you can't just like take the album out. You can't just like archive, you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
So the album is out there.
Or a movie.
Yes. And so you've got this like documented journey that's basically all of your work up until now. And you go back and you probably cringe a little bit to your first album that you released.
Like Leo DiCaprio looking back at his first movie, now he's like, oh my God.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's just out there for everybody forever.
Like I can take a podcast down if I wanted to.
Yes.
Even though I wouldn't.
Yes. But this is also an opportunity for us to document this beautiful journey of this life experience that you're going to grow and you're going to evolve and you're going to be able to see those next iterations of who you are. And to have an actual album out that you can go back to and to see how you thought, to see how you showed up, to see what was meaningful for you to talk about, you know what I mean? That's also the most beautiful thing that even social media these days is giving us that opportunity to see that evolution and that story as we grow and evolve, you know. And
I always laugh how dumb I'm going to look in 5 years because I'm going to be because I read and constantly growing every day. I'm like, I didn't know anything back then. 5 years from then, I didn't know anything back then.
I mean, look, we got artificial intelligence that's going to change the entire world in the next year. I don't even know what it's going to look like.
It's game changer.
Yeah.
Books, self-education. What's some things that stand out and why? What has been some life-changing books for you?
So this feels like a very customized approach based off of like who I'm talking to. It feels like I give a different response. So I think Art of Impossible is like my number one favorite right this very second in my life. The other book that I will probably give until the day I leave this earth is A Happy Pocket Full of Money.
I just bought that today. Thanks to Tori, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, I literally bought it today on audio.
So that is my most gifted book that I've ever, I don't know if I've gifted more of any other book except A Happy Pocket. And that is, it truly, and it doesn't come back to just money. It comes back to wealth and abundance in every aspect of life. So, but he ties it back into money a lot and pulls from so many different beautiful places of like the OG personal development books. You know, the Bible is one of the most OG that I personally am diving into for the first time in my life over the last since Christmas, actually, this year. It's really crazy. And realizing that there's so many personal development books that I've been obsessed with that pull directly from those stories.
Yeah.
So it's actually a really new frame of mind for me to like go into that book and to read it from a space of trying to tie it back to my understanding of so many other things that I've dove into. That's a big one that I wouldn't say I'm like, oh, go read the Bible. I'm not right. It's not like my number one recommended book. I would say it's something that I'm realizing is kind of the source and foundation of so many of the books that I have held so close to my heart, which has been really cool to see. A Happy Pocket being one of them. And then, I think it depends on what the intent is. What are you most, if you had to give me one avenue of intent when it came to, I want to learn this, or I want to, because I'm diving into blood glucose stuff right now when it comes to health and understanding that we are spiking our glucose over and over and over again all day, every single day by snacking. And I didn't realize how detrimental that is for my health and keeping.
David Sinclair. Like the more you eat, the quicker you die. Simple as that.
More, and also how often.
That's what I mean. When I say more, I mean how often. I think it's like the average person 21 snacks a day or something. Food.
You don't even want to know.
It's kind of crazy.
It was so bad.
I've been learning a lot about breath work and breathing and stuff lately. So that's kind of been one element I've been going down. How to win friends and influence people is one of my favorite, just because I think people skills is the base of any of it. I think having good people skills, 2 ears, 1 mouth, asking without the intent to reply, remembering people's names, just those simple things, I think is very important as a whole. I
agree. How to win friends and influence people is like an OG for me.
I would say that's my favorite if I had to pick one. I mean, that's pretty hard to say.
I know.
But I've read that book countless times.
That's so good.
Yeah, just don't criticize, condemn, and complain. Something I haven't done for probably at least 10 years now. So I don't know.
The other one I'm diving into heavy right now is Tony Robbins' book, Money. I've never treated money like there's an ecosystem around it, and if you understand it and you can dive into that, you can make it work for you so much better. And it's never been something I'm driven by. I've always been impact driven, and so money just shows up, and I've never done necessarily the right things to make it work for me in the best ways, and that I'm so excited about really diving into that whole entire ecosystem, because it's just not something that's a huge driver for me. So that's another book that is I'm diving into pretty heavy right now as well. I'm trying to think of what I'm playing like the most in my ear, and it's almost like toggled between, it's like Rob Dyrdek, who's giving me this optimization of my time so that I can make sure I can fit as much in as possible, but stay in flow in the process. Stephen Kotler keeps me in flow state as much as possible. So I got his work with Art of Impossible. And then I would say the stuff that's more spiritual and meaningful, and I can lean into faith and trust and on all of that, is like the Happy Pocket, Think and Grow Rich, the Bible, really leaning more into the, Wayne Dyers or Abraham Hicks, or like the spiritual aspect of things is really important for me. But I kind of feel like I've been going in these buckets of like business and money and wealth building. My priority in my 20s was so heavy in experiences and traveling the world and seeing everything. And then that priority has been changing to more like asset building and setting myself up for a family.
Yeah.
And so, but I still have got this like wanderlust spirit that I don't think will ever go away. So I've been playing in these like learning buckets of kind of setting new intention around different things and priorities around different things. So,
okay.
But health wise, I'm like, I consume a lot of content online, like on social media.
Yeah.
And that is like, I can go through my social and it's personal development, positive quotes, or health related information. And I can just bang out the like 2-minute videos of like, glucose goddess, or like getting all the little stuff in to make sure I'm like biohacking to the fullest.
Well, I like how you said that. So I feel like social can be very detrimental or it can be very beneficial. So if you like the right accounts, it feeds you a bunch of cool stuff.
Oh, it's the best.
And you can learn a lot in 30-second, 1-minute nuggets, health, like all these cool things.
I'm telling you.
Or you can do the opposite. Mm-hmm. So I'm not opposed to it. It seems like you're not either.
No.
Opposed to using social media, but make sure it's feeding you the right stuff.
Well, do you feel full when you get off social media, or do you feel empty? Do you feel fueled, or do you feel like uninspired, or are you comparing yourself?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's another good point.
Now I would say that the biggest thing for me is I'll get lost sometimes in learning or in like this little rabbit hole that it kind of takes you down, and you're like, wait, how much time just went by?
Yeah.
But I would say if you have that, if you make sure that there's just nothing but good pages that you're following, it is my number one source of quick information of stuff that I'm most intrigued and curious about.
Flooding with positivity. Yeah.
And I follow like the best of the best in their fields, and they're formatting content in the fastest way possible because that's what's getting picked up in the algorithm.
Yeah.
So it's giving you, it's like, don't ignore reading the book. I'm not saying don't read the book, but if you want quick information all day long, or, when you hop on.
I do it on this podcast. Yeah. I take an hour podcast and I chop in the 30-second gold nuggets. People like the nuggets way more than sitting there watching an hour podcast for that nugget.
Amen.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. Sorry, I haven't posted for 2 weeks. My mum's, daughter's, brother's been sick, or the video's over, and you've got what you need. Favorite quote?
Oh, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Where does that come from?
I don't know. It's just something that I've lived by for a very long time, and there's so many other quotes, but there's so many others, but that's be the light. That's the first thing that popped in my brain. Just be that. If you're that, then everything else will follow suit. But I think if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. That is something that more recently it's just been programming or I guess just going through my head, because I've had a lot of things in my world where I'm like, it's like going to the mall and you try a bunch of stuff on in the dressing room, and you leave and maybe you didn't get that thing you tried on. You're like, oh my gosh, like that was so fun. Like I really want, and then you leave the dressing room and you leave the store and that's all you can think about is like, I have to go back and get that one thing I tried on. Or it's and that's a hell yes. When you go in the dressing room and you try something on, you're like, well, I don't hate it. It's cool. And I like it. And then you go pay for it, and then it sits in your closet and you don't wear it, and it still has the tags on. And I'm packing right now and I'm looking at stuff in my closet that still have tags on it. And I'm like, that was not a hell yes, Jess. Why did you buy that? Yeah. And it's the same exact concept in these different aspects of life, if we're, it might be a little bit scary to step out into faith and create space for something that could potentially be a hell yes. But if you do that, then you're going to end up having something come in that's going to be something even greater and better. And I think that more recently, I've just been asking myself that question, like, is this a hell yes? And zoom out and really ask yourself, are you just trying to look for greener grass somewhere? Or if it's like a situation, because, this can be applied to so many different things. So my brain is serving me all these different things that it could apply to. But I want to go back to like the analogy of like trying on something in the dressing room and applying it in that form. But if you're only filling your closet with hell yeses, if you're only surrounding yourself with, hell yes humans, if you're really only putting, following the hell yeses on the accounts on your social media, if you're only really eating the hell yes foods in your life,
you're in that green.
If you're really setting yourself up to live a really dope life experience, right? So
that's a thing I read a while ago. It's like, if you got a scale from 1 to 10 and you take 7 out of the equation. So an 8 is what? Like, say you ask, what is this guy attractive from 1 to 10? And you can't say 7. He's either like a 6, which is an attractive, or he's 8, which is a hell yes. If you feel like you're gonna fire someone, you're gonna hire someone. You're like
almost justifying it.
Yeah, a 7 is the safety zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We always go to the 7.
That's true.
Take the 7 out, it's either a hard yes or a hard no.
That's interesting.
It's just another way of putting what you said.
Yeah.
And it's something like, I'm going to steal your one, but I like, that's what I've been using previously.
Yeah.
Is it a yes? Is it a no? There's no 7. There's no safety net there.
Yeah.
Just to finish off with, what makes you you? Like, what makes you this powerhouse woman? Where does it come from? Is it your dad? Is it your mom? Combination? Is it just the self-growth? Is it just realizing you can do anything if you put your mind to it?
There's a few things that popped in my head. One, I would say I'm human just like everybody else. I think my dad was a really intricate part of me not really seeing a cap on things, and him never. I've always been.
So I saw the opposite. I never saw the big goals. I always saw the cap.
Interesting.
I didn't know there was a different way until I started reading.
Wow.
Whereas you at least had like one side to kind of show you that.
I had, well, my dad, even though he could see that I was going to fall flat on my face in a situation, he still cheered me on like I could do
because
it.
he gets it. You're going to get back up and try again. And you're going to learn more by falling flat on your face.
Even when I call him up and I was idea of the week when I was a kid. I was like, I'd watch a dolphin training movie. I'd be like, I'm going to be a dolphin trainer. I watch a firefighting movie. I'm going to be a firefighter. Like I was like that girl. And I still am squirrely like that. Like I get so inspired by seeing things. And but he never told me that something wasn't possible. He only said, what's the plan? And so if I ever wanted like a pet, I had to write a whole entire plan out. If I wanted to move to LA when I was 19, even though my mom was like, you're crazy, that's not happening. My dad was like, well, what's the plan? I already had it all created. Everything in my mind was always, it's not that something can't happen. It's what's the plan to go make that happen. And that was something my dad instilled in me from a very young age, even though he knew that I was going down different avenues that I probably would not continue.
I mean, that even goes like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I can't afford it. How can I afford it? Same type of mindset.
So I think that was very, very helpful. My mom's work ethic was very beautiful to watch. And I think that gave me that. And then I think moving to LA when I was 19 and getting out of the bubble that I was in and seeing this different, I'm sure you can relate, Virginia.
Which is a small town or?
Yeah, it's pretty small compared to like.
How many people in the town?
I don't know. There's still a decent, I don't even know the number. I would say there's like 4 high schools. So it's not a small place.
Yeah, I'm from like a small town in Australia with 3,000 people.
Oh, wow. No.
Like when you talk about a bubble, like that's all I knew. I didn't know there was anything else outside of that.
So you're in a really small bubble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it was not that. You still ran into everybody that you knew at the grocery store, but it wasn't like, That's crazy. I can't even imagine that.
I love my childhood. I love my childhood.
I can only imagine.
It was amazing.
I'm sure you had so much. There's that's what I love so much about every single human that I meet, is that we all have such different, that's why nothing is for everyone. Every single person, the word Sonder, I'm sure Tori even brought that up. The realization that every given passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. And when you understand that, then all of us are our own main characters of our movies.
Yeah.
But then you also have these layers of like, how did you grow up? How did I grow up? How did people communicate with you just because of the physical body that you're in? How do they still react and respond to you in that physical body that you're in? Because at all times, we're all experiencing all of these different things based off of the body that we're in, the way that we grew up, the life experiences we've had, the trauma we've been through. Like all this stuff is making us see, because that's why we can look at the exact same thing and see something completely different based off of, and we come out of a movie and we've taken, this movie and we've completely experienced it differently based off of what we know to be truth and how we've lived our lives. So it's really, really wild that like you having the point of reference of 3,000 people. I can't even imagine how you grew up in the different to somebody that grew up in a major city or that grew up in like this middle ground that I was kind of in. Yeah, I don't know. It's so crazy.
Kind of all you know, right?
It's so wild.
Yeah. But I couldn't imagine still being there, which a lot of people are.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with either one of them. But for me personally, I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that the number one thing to tie it back to what you were saying is you're never going to get it right. You're never going to get it done. It's just always a constant evolution. And when you know that there's never an arrival of anything, then you stay in curiosity.
Yeah, enjoy the journey.
Stay in curiosity. Everything. Just allow the unfolding, allow the growth and evolution.
If I'm going to be happy here, you're never going to be happy. You got to be happy in the journey.
So the powerhouse thing, I wouldn't say that there's a powerhouse. I would say there's a kid that will never grow up and always be curious and always dive into new learning, new growth, new evolution. And I'm out here just trying to figure it out, just like all of us. And I'm trying to play and have the best time along the way.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was about to fist bump you.